Intelligence to innovate professional learning. So let me introduce our team first. We are from the Westmoreland Intermediate Unit. We're just east of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And the team on the screen here is our Curriculum Services Team, or portion of it, I should say. Myself, Tim Hamill, I'm Director of Curriculum Services here at the IU. And I'll let the others introduce themselves real quick here. Lauren, you want to go first?
Sure. My name is Lauren Cunningham. I'm a curriculum services supervisor here to support the work that we do in the department.
Becky?
Hi, everyone. I'm Becky Henderson. I'm also a curriculum services supervisor. For those of you that were at AESA, I was there as well.
And finally, Diane.
Good morning, everyone. I am number 3 Curriculum Services Supervisor here at the WIU. Thank you for joining us. I look forward to working with you today.
Okay, and Diane's right. They are going to be working with you. So at a point somewhere in the session here today, we're going to break out into some rooms, and each of our supervisors are going to jump in a room with you, and we're going to give you an opportunity to work with some of the things that we're going to show you today. So this is a hands-on workshop a little later on here today. So so you know us. Let's get to know you a little bit. If you wouldn't mind in the chat, sharing your name and title and where you work, and include your location, because we know we have folks from all over today. So go ahead and take a moment to do that. Hey, we have Portland, Oregon in the house. All right. A few folks from Oregon. That's terrific. Ohio's in the house. Wisconsin. Wonderful. Stacy, hi. Wow. Okay. They're rolling in here. We have some of our folks from the IU here as well. Some of our staff has joined us. So glad to have some of our own folks on board here today. Katie from Chicago. Katie, hi. It's nice to see you again. We have, let's see, Oregon, Wisconsin. Boy, Oregon's representing today. All right. Northern Illinois. San Bernardino, California. Terry. All right. Leah from Oregon. Julia Francis is here today from Colorado. She's from Alludo, one of the tools that we use here, and you'll see later on. Hi, Julia. All right. Okay, terrific. Well, you know, I wish we had the time to let everybody introduce themselves, but I know that would take way too much time, and we appreciate you sharing. We'll make sure we go through this list carefully and make sure we note everyone who is here today. So let's jump right in. Our goals for today, we're going to explore what we call our 3 C's framework, which you'll come to understand is really the way we go about framing all of the professional learning approach that we are taking at the moment, and how we're looking at the processing of all of the professional learning that we're trying to make available to those we serve. So that 3 C's framework is very important for us. We're going to explain microlearning a little bit, because this is a key piece of how we build what we build and what we do with artificial intelligence, using it essentially artificial intelligence to build these microlearning activities. We're going to demonstrate for you our creative process, actually show you what we do and how we do it. So yeah, we're going to give you our secret sauce today and show you like actually what we do and how we go through this. You're going to create activities. So you're going to have the opportunity to take the process we show you, and with our help, actually build an activity today, and using the tools that we share with you. And we're going to share out. So we are going to give you an opportunity to share with the group the activities that you build. So we're going to do a little crowdsourcing here as a group. Okay. If time permits at the end, we'll open up for some questions, but I know we have a jam-packed agenda here, and we'll do our best to keep things on track and keep it rolling. All right. So we wanted to start by sharing a few stats with you. In this year, since August 1st, these are the stats that we could share with you in terms of professional learning and what we have done with our approach as it stands today. So we've currently served 1,855 individual learners with this process. They've completed 31,858 activities. And these are, again, what we would refer to as micro-learning activities, anywhere from 15 minutes, 30 minutes in length. But that gives you an idea of how many different activities have been done. 7,560 hours, which equates to, in a 6-hour professional learning day, we've delivered 1,260 days of professional learning. We're a team of 4 people. I don't know how we could deliver 1,260 days of professional learning any other way using traditional methods. And for us, being such a small team, we really are doing our best to find a way to extend ourselves and do more with less. And I think we found a really good formula for that in our approach. I don't know that I've done 1,260 days of professional learning activities in the last 10 years combined myself. So I think this is doing the right thing for us here. So we wanted to share those stats because yes, they do blow our minds a bit as the image shows. And by the way, every image in today's presentation, I shouldn't say every, but most of our images today are AI generated. Including our photos when we were sharing our pictures. Yeah, those were AI generated too. We like to think we look that good, but not always. So anyway, moving on, you kind of have an idea of what we do. So I mentioned the 3C framework earlier. This is really key for us. This is part of how we frame what we do and how we do it. And there are 3 pieces, 3 C's here: the curating of it, the crowdsourcing of it, and the creating of it all. I think that this is probably, if you walk away today with anything, this 3C framework really has a lot to do with the mindset we have and how we're going about providing professional learning opportunities to those we serve. And in our book, these are the key elements for us. So we want to take a little bit of time and walk through each one of these things, give you an idea, what they look like to us, what they really mean in terms of our operations. So let's start with curate. What we basically mean by that is building and maintaining a library of learning assets that are vetted by our team, our curriculum services team. So the idea of a library, if you will, comes to mind here. And I think that if you think of curating a library of professional learning opportunities, that's where we begin to depart from that traditional professional learning approach, where you might go out and do a day-long professional learning opportunity or even a half day. What we're talking about here is building that library of elements and assets that can be picked and pulled off the shelf at any given time so that folks can take advantage of the opportunity to get the pieces they need at the right time on demand. All right. So curating that kind of library, it takes a lot of effort. In our case, we use our platform, our playlearngrow.info platform to kind of serve as a home base for everything. It's an entry point. We do have multiple places where our content lives. And this is one of, basically, if you want to think of it this way, it's our front door into the library. We have subscription content. We have free content. We have content that is more course driven and workshop driven and so on. So it's all parsed out into different categories, but it all lives in one place. That's really important for our users to know, where do I go to get what I'm looking for? That's half the battle sometimes. And I think we struggle sometimes to get people in the right place at the right time. So this is part of our effort to fix that as we go. So at this point, we're curating over 1,000 hours of professional learning opportunities in our systems, and that's growing all the time. We are constantly building upon the content that we have. In order to get where we've gotten with this 1,000 hours, I'm going to tell you right now that the four of us on our team did not create all 1,000 hours of that content at this point. We are still creating content, but to get off the ground, we needed help. We needed a lot of other people to help us with that. So that's where our partnership with Alludo, our learning management system, and our basically where we house the opportunities. That's where that comes into play. By providing content through them and content we create, we're surpassing that 1,000 hours of content already. So I mentioned the crowdsourcing piece. This is our second C of the 3 Cs. This is where we actually have to enlist the help of others to build our professional learning catalog. We can't do this alone. And even as we are doing it, the speed with which we need to create opportunities here far surpasses an individual's capabilities. And that's why this AI component is so important. It speeds up the process for us. It allows us to become faster at building what we need. And you'll see how that impacts us here in a bit. I think that's, if I were to poll this group, if I said to everybody on this call right now, give me an example of a need you have for professional learning. And right now, I don't know how many folks we have in a room. We have 38 people here right now. I'd probably get 38 different responses to that question. And if I asked it 10 minutes later, I'd get another 38 answers. There are so many different needs. How do you address them all? How do you build that library big enough to be able to support those needs across the board? And that's where crowdsourcing comes in. We have to take advantage of other opportunities that people provide for us. We call them playmakers. That's the terminology we're using here, because we call our project play. Professional Learning and You is what play stands for. So you've probably noticed the branding across the board here as we go. So we call this whole thing play. And our playmakers are the people who come out of the classroom or are educators on a local, regional, or even national level to contribute what they know to our activity library. And that's really our plan, is to crowdsource as much as we can to build upon the library we already have, the existing library. That way it's constantly improving, it's constantly growing, it's constantly building to what we need. Every year needs change. Every year mandates come out. Every year things are different on the state level. We're constantly reacting to those mandates as they come out, and our districts struggle to deal with those things. Our goal is to be able to be a little more limber in putting those opportunities into our system, building them quickly and having them ready to go as soon as possible. So that's part of the science here. The last piece, and probably the most important piece of the 3 Cs, is our create component. Obviously, you know from what I've said already that the creation process is really important here. We don't have everything we need right now, and we know that we have to be on a constant cycle of creating new opportunities. And how we do that runs across many different parameters. We use different formats to do that. We have ways to create new content here. Traditionally, we might do videos. We have a small little studio here that we might do some videos in. We have the ability to create some podcasts and YouTube videos and things like that. But those take time, and those are you know, as you all know, if any of you have tried to do that work, it takes a lot of time and effort to do that. We have to do other things and do them differently to be able to get that production speed that we need. So we can't rely solely on these traditional pieces, although they do play a role in what we ultimately build and create. I want to, before we show you some of this creation process, I want to kind of wrap it all in this concept of microlearning. And the image here was very carefully selected for this reason. Microlearning really is all about chunking down information into smaller pieces, right? It's all about making it more digestible, making it more accessible, allowing those who are trying to learn the opportunity to take learning in smaller bites. I use the circuit board as an analogy here, because if you think of a circuit board has all these components to it, all these little bits, pieces, and parts. Each and every one of them does a very small thing, a very small bit or part of a process. It's not until you put them all together into a very complex mix of components that you do something amazing. And I like to think of microlearning in the same way. Microlearning, each piece and part is very small and does a very small thing. But when you combine it in the right combination, you can do amazing things for people in terms of their learning. So it's the combination, it's the way you take advantage of the material that's being directed. Why is this so important for us to think this way? There are three factors here. Okay. Mobile devices, everybody has them. So everybody has 24/7 access to be able to learn anywhere, anytime, any place. Social media gives us a way to connect people, get them into or connected to the material. And the busy lifestyle is the reason why people need to be able to grab professional learning this way. So without having some flexibility, without having some ability to adjust for that busy lifestyle and be able to take 5 minutes here or 5 minutes there to do a bit of learning, we're not going to engage people the way we need to. And here's an example. So if you look at this quick little video here, that might, for some of you, represent what a day feels like sometimes. For me, I'm the guy crossing the sidewalk there in the middle, getting right there, just about hit by a truck, right? It's crazy. Everything's moving around us at a high speed. We're in the middle of it all, and it's just a very fast pace. So let's take this into consideration. If you were in that same intersection and there were two billboards, and those billboards read, as you see them above, which one of those billboards do you have even a small chance of catching or seeing? And I'm going to guess you're probably thinking the one on the right is the one you might catch. And consider this, both have similar messages. One's got a lot more information all being put together in one place, but I'm never going to have time to see all that. I'm never going to have time to capture that. But I am going to see that giant yellow gold billboard with the big Happy Meal on it. Okay. Quick message, Happy Meal, great deal. Got it. Moving on. Okay. So, in a nutshell, this is what microlearning is really all about. It's about having things in those smaller chunks, digestible when we need them. And that's really what we're getting at here. So how do we get at building this stuff? How do we create what we're talking about here? And this is where we're going to kind of divulge our secret here. So we've been talking about this speedier way to do things, and this is where AI comes into play. And we have, in our process here, worked with AI to try to tweak systems to do what we want them to do. And ChatGPT is at the center of it, which I think most people at this point have probably dabbled in. And by the way, if you don't have an account here yet, while we're going through these next couple of steps, you're going to want to create an account. If you don't have a ChatGPT account already, please go ahead and create one, because you are going to use it today. And we are going to give you some things to plug into ChatGPT to do some creating. So this is where we start. But if you've played around with ChatGPT, you know that it can produce some weird and wacky things. And it's not necessarily perfect. And it certainly doesn't do everything magically. All right. The magic actually happens after you create something or generate something. It's more in the hands of the human where the magic really happens. So the prompt is really the key. So we've engineered a way of doing or prompting ChatGPT to do what we want it to do. And you're probably thinking right now, oh, I want a copy of this. So if you haven't screenshot it already, I will tell you, we're going to share this slide deck with you. We'll give you a copy of it so you can see it. But just quickly to go through this is the process, the flow that we look at when we generate a prompt to put into ChatGPT and have it build for us an activity. And if you just look across here, follow with me, we want to create a professional learning activity about, pick a topic. Okay, we're going to insert that. Who's our audience? We define that audience. Is it a teacher? Is it an administrator? Is it, a group of people? And then it'll be completed by, is it an individual, a group, a team? And then which elements do we need to include in that mix? Notice here we have things like objective, time of completion, detailed intro, process. We're going to tell it precisely what we want it to do. That is probably the most important thing to consider when you're doing this type of work. The more you give it, the more you tell it, the better it will be at producing what you want to see in the end. So this little framework does wonders for us in building that out. So let's get under the hood a little bit. We're going to figure out how this works, and we're going to show you in detail. And to do that, we're going to bring Becky Henderson in. So Becky, we've put Becky on the spot a number of times to do this activity in front of people, but she's never had to do it online like this and have you watch her every move. We've had her do this in sessions where she'll sit by the side while somebody like me jabbers on, and she'll create while we're sitting there. But Becky's actually going to build an activity for you right now, and she's going to do it on screen, and she's going to actually share the process of how we do this. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, Becky, and I'm going to have you go ahead and share from your end whatever you need to share.
Okay, I'm going to share. Here we go. All right, everyone. Oops, let me not move everything. Here we go. Everyone can see my screen okay?
And I should
All right.
say, as Becky's getting started here, I think Becky actually has a paid version of ChatGPT, but this will work whether you're using the paid version or not. There are a few things that you can do differently with a paid version versus the free version of ChatGPT, but you can use
Here,
the free
we'll take
version
it down
to do
to
what we're showing.
3.5. There we go. Okay. Now, because you keep making this more and more complex on me every time, do I get to pick my own topic, or do we want to let?
We'll let you pick a topic today, Becky.
Oh,
We'll move things along.
okay. All right. So I'm going to copy and paste the magic prompt into ChatGPT, and I'm going to pick a topic. Let's do hybrid learning. All right,
see how
so
Becky's actually she's taken that prompt, and this is a prompt we're going to share with you later to do this same thing. So watch carefully how she does this, because this is exactly what you're going to do here in about 20 minutes or so.
So this is just the magic prompt in text form, not in visual form. And I just put in my topic, hybrid learning, and we're going to see what ChatGPT gives me. Boom, boom, boom. There it goes. All right. Create a professional learning. And so I have to review everything. Mastering hybrid learning, a professional development journey for educators. Okay, I like that. This whole thing's going to be about 3 hours. I have to review it. Let's see. We're going to have a video. I like that. Reading an article from ISTE. Oh, I like that. Reputable source. Okay. Step 3, tools and technology. I'm going to review some online resources. So I'm going to have to go and check those. For designing engaging hybrid lessons, teaching channel. Okay. These links are not going to work for me. So I'm going to have to go and I'm going to actually have to look every single one of these links up. And then I've got a reflection plus a reflection prompt. So I don't need 2 reflections here. So I'm going to take out step 6 and then I'm going to rework my prompt. So what I do here for
So
me
Becky, let me stop you
personally,
for a second.
go ahead.
So just to note where Becky is right now, she put the prompt in, she clicked generate, and ended up with what looks like about a 3-hour session, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now, we could have been more specific, right, Becky? We could have
Yes.
said, create a 30-minute session, right?
Yep, I could have done that. Or in what we like with micro learning is about 15-minute sessions. We want something small and digestible. So really, if I wanted to turn this into a series of activities, what I'd like to do is actually take this first one and maybe turn this first one into an activity, because step 1 is just 15 minutes and there's a video from Edutopia. So I could actually take this first activity right here and turn this into one micro learning activity and design something right around that, and then build a second activity with each step going through that way. So there's a lot of opportunities that I have here. This could be one large comprehensive professional learning activity, or it could be several activities right here.
So the title generated automatically, the activities generated automatically. None of this was actually, something that we asked it to do specifically in terms of the steps or the components. So ChatGPT does a really good job of generating that framework for us to get started. And so,
Exactly.
yeah, go ahead and show that, Becky.
So now I'm going to go into Oludo, which is our LMS where we use to create all of our content. I'm going to go into section where I have everything, and I'm going to go ahead and create an activity. I'm going to go over here. I do like this title, so I'm going to just copy and paste it over here, make things a little bit easier. And I am going to stick with that 15-minute chunk and just do that first activity. So for me, that's going to be 25 points. And I like to move everything over into a Google Doc because it makes formatting easier. So I do have an introduction here. And I think this introduction is going to be a good starting point for me right here. But I need something visual. I need something a little bit more. Let me grab an image real quick because we have some nice images that we use. Give me just 1 second just to make it look a little more professional.
One thing we might do is use AI to generate images specifically for what we're doing. Just as we've done for the presentation today, we can generate images that can pop right into our work as well. The learning management system here, Oludo, is one that we use to actually connect people to these activities. And as you can see, it's a pretty easy to use platform in terms of how it's partitioned out. It asks us for the right information to build the activity in a very accessible way. We put in a description with resources and so on. And what you might notice is that the way our prompt generates things in AI and ChatGPT, it kind of feeds us the right information for what we want to do in our LMS. So it chunks it out in a way that it makes it very easy to kind of cut and paste what we have there into our platform. And again, let me stop here because I think it's really important to note that Becky is not going to just cut and paste today from that AI generated piece. The problem with what comes out of the AI component is that accuracy is certainly in question. Links are in question. Whether or not the links are real is in question. So these are all things that we still have to do. Okay. That's the part that is probably the most time consuming of this process. You don't get away with, just cutting and pasting out of ChatGPT to create an activity. You should not do that. Don't do that. It would be horrible to do that. And I can't stress that enough. It's what we find most helpful from the AI component here is the general framework that it feeds to us, the way it formulates the activity, the way it puts it together. It's pretty creative in that regard, and it gives a very nice experience, if you will, for the learner to walk through and to actually engage in the learning. And the more we prompt it to generate for an individual, tell it to do things like build reflections, and it can very adeptly build these activities to be done by an individual. So again, I can't stress enough that this process is not just an automatic click, boom, and you're done. And as you can see, Becky's working in the background here, looking at resources to plug in to supplement what was given to us in ChatGPT. So this is, again, it's a very, very important part of the process that's going on right now. And it's time consuming, but all things considered, it takes a lot less time to do this activity than it would if we were starting from scratch without the AI component. So while Becky's working here, this is a good time for us to take some questions. And we'll let her go ahead and keep rolling here. And if you want to, you can feel free to open your mic if you like, but we'll go ahead and I'll answer from the chat if you want to throw them in chat as well. Bill, your question about do the links provided by ChatGPT exist behind a paywall? So what we are finding is that the free version of ChatGPT seldom provides real links. It seldom provides functional links. They're usually made up. They're usually, if it's a YouTube video, it goes to YouTube, but it's a video that doesn't exist. It's pretty common. And in fact, ChatGPT has begun to prompt the user that is the case, that you're going to see those types of results. The paid version does generate links that are more active links. There are plugins that can be used in the pay version of ChatGPT that allow you to reach out and connect to the live internet to actually have real resources connect. So I guess that's, if I were to say anything about, is it worth having the paid version of ChatGPT if you're doing this kind of work? I think it's, in my book right now, it would be a yes. It does make a difference. It does give you a little bit more, and there's less work to do in terms of finding, where the holes are. Okay. So that's pretty, I think that's a pretty good, fair assessment of it right now. And Bill, I hope that answered your questions. Other questions that might be out there at the moment. Katie says, what process did you go through to choose Alludo as your LMS? Good question. We spent a long time trying to figure out where we wanted to go with an LMS for this process. We have been for more than 15 years, we've had Moodle we've been a Moodle shop where we've had online courses created. So yeah, we've done a lot of online work. We've looked at Canvas, we've looked at Schoology, we've looked at all the big hitters, right? The problem is none of them were built for professional learning specifically. And I think the other really important part of it was that we wanted to be able to have more of a personalized experience in this for our learners. We wanted to also have the gamification aspect of it, where learners could go in and track their learning with things like points and earn badges and things like that. And Alludo had that capability. Alludo also was built from the ground up as a professional learning platform. So it really does a great job of being a professional learning environment. So when we did finally stumble across Alludo, and at this point it was about 2 years ago, and I don't even remember now exactly how we came upon Alludo, but we soon met Julia from Alludo. Julia is on the call here with us today, and she did a great job of sharing how the platform worked, and it just resonated with everything we were looking to do in providing this opportunity. As an intermediate unit, as a service agency, it gave us the ability to create our own brand in all of this. That was important to us. So, our professional learning and you platform basically lives right alongside the Alludo LMS, and they're basically cohabitating together, and it's been wonderful for us. So I will tell you, we looked through a lot of other options and a lot of other things before making the decision to go with Alludo as the platform. But it does do a great job, and we've had very positive feedback from our folks who are using the system. Our districts are seeing great success with it so far. So Katie, I hope that got your question. Kelly had a question: what image generators do you use the most? I will, everything you've seen today in the presentation was done in DALL-E, which is integrated with ChatGPT in the paid version, but you can also do the free version of DALL-E, which gives you a kind of a limit, I think, to how many you can create. But that's the one that we're using most often.
Tim, how do you spell that one, Dolly?
It's DALL-E, DALL-E. Yeah, so the paid version of ChatGPT actually puts DALL-E in as a plugin, so that you can ask right in the ChatGPT prompt window, you can ask it what you want it to do. The image of the guy working on the car, in our presentation, I prompted it, show me a picture of a magician working under the hood of a car, and it generated that image. So it's pretty simple, and it does a pretty good job of creating human-like characters. Sometimes they have 6 fingers, but it works pretty good. Sure, Katie. Let's see, what else? What did I miss here? How's it coming there, Becky?
Moving and grooving. We're working on a reflection prompt right now.
So, where Becky is right now, if you notice, if you've been watching her do this, you kind of see her bouncing back and forth a lot. So what she's doing is going in and looking at what was generated by ChatGPT and looking at resources and then transferring that into the LMS. you may feel a little bit like you're in the vortex here right now. But of all this going on, but it really is kind of a logical process, and it really feels pretty natural to go through this. After you've done it a couple of times, it seems to flow, and you know, I think Becky's on track here to probably finish this activity in under 20 minutes.
I just created it as a draft. Would you like me to publish?
Yeah, sure, why not?
All right. Let's go ahead and we'll publish right now.
And so Becky went from concept to published activity here. And I don't know, I wasn't counting, Becky. It's probably
That
15
was
minutes.
about, yeah, a little bit less. That one was pretty quick because we did a small one. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, go ahead and open that up and show that. What Becky's scrolling through there are all of our different levels of content. There's the one that was just created. And that's what it looks like. Resources and all. And the reflection prompt and evidence. So this, let's stop here for a second. If you can go back to that evidence piece, Becky. So this is one of the key pieces. I think when you look at how we structure what we ask people to do, and then what we ask them to do in terms of the assessment component, this probably doesn't look like a traditional assessment that you would see in an online learning, professional learning activity. Oftentimes you'll see the multiple choice questions. You'll see the, you know, write a, you know, do a summary of something, or answer these questions, you know, and it's pretty cut and dry, right? Problem is, it doesn't necessarily ask the learner to do anything. It doesn't ask them to incorporate anything into their own environment, into their own classroom. So most of what we do when we do reflections in here, when we do evidence pieces, we're asking them to show what they've done, or respond with a reflection of what they've learned, or, you know, to put it into their own world. So it means more. It's not me just answering 5 questions that relate to the content I just read. It's about making the learner think, how does this apply to me? What am I doing in this activity that I can use, and how do I use it? And what kind of challenges might I face when I do this? Or when I did it, what challenges did I face? And you know, we ask our users to be reflective often. And I really think that that's part of what makes our teachers who experience these activities feel a little more connected and engaged with what they're doing in the system. It goes beyond just that typical, you know, answer a question. I see a couple of questions in the chat. You know, can learners submit their reflections via video instead of text? Absolutely. There are multiple forms that we can accept. We can do a file upload. We can do a text upload. We can have them linked to a file. We can have them linked to you know, an image. They can share an image with us. A lot of different ways they can share. Angie, your question about what do we do with all of those reflections and evidence? Well, they are submitted at the end of an activity. Our users submit that activity and their whatever they're submitting as evidence, and we actually review it. Our team and with the help of the folks at Alludo, who have a team as well that work collaboratively with us, we do the reviews. So a human is looking at everything. We don't let this just roll past for credit. So yeah, it's an important part of what we're doing. I think that that's actually one of the reasons why this is working as well as it's working. Because there's a lot of care that goes into asking people to do the evidence piece. It seems more or less of a waste of time, I guess, is the way I would look at it as a professional. It makes it more about me. It makes it more about me as the learner. And that's important. Just looking at another question here. What do you do with all of the reflections and evidence that stays in the system? So it can always be, we can always go back to it. We can always, the learner can go back and see it, and so can administration within the buildings. So it's really easy for our administrators to follow what their staff is doing in terms of professional learning. That's always a challenge to stay up on. So the analytics within our system does a great job of letting administrators see what their staff is doing in terms of professional learning. And since they're giving them choice, since they're giving them an opportunity to gravitate toward the area of where they're most likely to be successful, they can see, well, okay, where's my staff interested? Where are the interests? What are they working on? What are they feeling they themselves need to be focused on? Bill, I saw your question here about copyright and fair use. Are there any copyright fair use issues using AI that may look at published lesson plans to help create new lesson plans from others' intellectual property? Yes, that is the Wild West component of AI right now. If you've been listening to the news, you know, what was it, the New York Times, or I'm trying to remember now which of the large news organizations just sued OpenAI over the usage of their content in building out. So Bill, the answer to your question is, I don't know yet. And I don't know anybody who could be sure on that at the moment. It is so very much a Wild West kind of area right now that I think those are questions that are very difficult to answer. I think from our perspective, here's how we take it. You know, we're using AI to generate a framework for us. And that framework, I think just for us, it just stands as a starting point, but it's a very good one. When it comes to the actual content itself, we're doing some pretty heavy editing and some pretty heavy supplementing of the resources and things like that. So I think we steer pretty clear of the copyright potential issues, but again, it's very different. I know Becky has had a lot of experience with copyright, and she works a lot with open education resources. Becky, let me defer that question to you. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, you're right to describe it as the Wild West right now. But we are keeping an eye on things. And it's part of the reason why we were showing the process and how we engage in it. And because it really is one of those things where we don't just take what comes out of the system, copy and paste it word for word and put it right into another platform and say, this is what we created. We take our time, we review everything, we look at what the intention is behind what we're using and how we want teachers to engage with it. But at the end of the day, we know that laws are going to change, especially around copyright and AI and how you can and cannot use things. So we have to constantly be in the know on things, and we have to be ready for how things are going to change and pivot as well. So our practice with all of this is what comes out of the system is the starting point for us. We are going to use it as a framework. We are going to take it as that starting point, and we are going to use our instructional expertise to say, okay, what could I do with this? How can I move it forward? That's why I took a small component and said, I like what this set up for me. let's find some resources. I like that it recommended Edutopia. I think a lot of teachers like going to Edutopia. Let's see if I can find some resources on Edutopia that teachers might want to engage with to learn about hybrid learning. But I created the context around hybrid learning. Yeah, I used a little bit of what it gave me for that introduction for speed and time, because we're in an online environment right now and we do have a limited amount of time to engage with this. But down here, what I asked them to do, that's because I liked what came out of the article from Edutopia. I liked that it was reinforced by the problems of practice from the Learning Accelerator. And I asked them to go into that reflection. So we always try to frame it as starting point comes from ChatGPT, the framework comes from ChatGPT, but we are the instructional experts on our end. We are saying, okay, it gave us the starting point. What are we doing with it? How are we making it meaningful for teachers? And if we can get to that point, excuse me, if we can get to that point with what it generates, then we know that we're going in the right direction with it. And if copyright law becomes more concrete around AI usage, then we will have a solid direction on how we may need to pivot anything going forward.
Okay. Becky, nice job on building that out. And
Hey,
we do
thanks.
appreciate the fact that you did that in front of all of us. It's a bit nerve-wracking, I know. But I think that we really wanted you to see the process, because what we're going to do is ask you to give it a shot and try it out. So we're going to actually give you some time now to work on building an activity. Now, we know you don't have access to our learning management system, and that's fine, because what we're going to give you is actually, I'm going to share it in the chat right now. I'm going to share a link, and that link will actually take you to a document, a Google Doc. It's going to ask you to make a copy of it. So go ahead and do that. And what you'll see come up, doing the same thing on my end here. So let me share my screen. Okay, so you should be seeing a document like this, and this is our rapid activity development exercise. All right. So what we've given you is a magic prompt, as we showed you earlier. And that magic prompt is all you need to actually plug in to ChatGPT. So you're going to copy that prompt and you're going to open up ChatGPT, and you're going to, in two places here, substitute specific information. You're going to create a professional learning activity about, make it your choice, whatever you want to put in there. And who is it for? For what kind of teachers? Or you could even change that word teachers if you want to. You could make it for high school administrators. You could do, whatever you like. And then the rest of this, it'll work for you. But again, you can feel free to experiment. But this prompt, as it stands, by filling in just a couple of these pieces, will generate an activity that you can then copy into this document. So once you've done it, once you've generated it in ChatGPT, you're going to copy it into your document, and you're going to work on editing it out. So go through it, check those resources, look and see what works, what doesn't work, what do you like, what needs to be reworded or changed. Do your editing process, walk through it. We're going to give you 30 minutes here, and we're going to have one of our team members in a room with you. So we're going to split you up into 3 different rooms here to do this. So once you get in the room, go ahead and start working. You'll be with one of our folks, either Diane or Lauren or Becky, and work on generating the activity. Now, I'm going to encourage you to stay with us on this, because what we're going to do when we come back, we're going to actually give you an opportunity to share. And we have a special opportunity for for somebody in the group here, if you're willing to share what you built in, you don't have to share it, like walk through it or tell us about it, but to actually share the document that you're creating with your activity. We're going to give you a place to share that. If you do share that with us, we have a special opportunity for one lucky person here. So we'll keep that to the end, but stick with us. In 30 minutes, we'll come back, see where everybody is. We'll kind of get your feedback on the process. And again, you'll have one of our experts in the room with you to ask questions. So feel free, make sure that you're taking advantage of their help while you're in the room. Okay. So any questions? Okay. So let me go ahead then, and I'm going to send, let's see if we can do this here. Bear with me one moment, and we're going to send you out to the rooms. Okay, here we go.
Hi, everyone.
Hello,
How are we doing?
doing good. We have a group here together, just to let you know, Brown County SC. So
There's
we
a whole group there.
get a little aerial view, but we're all here.
That's awesome. Thanks for joining, everybody. Did everyone get the link for the document to work on? All right,
Yes.
great. Great. So this is your time to go ahead and try to create an activity using the magic prompt. So you have all the text on the document, so you can go ahead and fill in the blanks. And I am here for anything that you need and any questions that you have.
So Becky, I know you said that it'll give, especially if you just have the free version,
Mhm.
that we have to go out and check to make sure the websites and the resources are accurate.
Yes.
Is that just the best way to do that?
Yes, I had been using the free version actually up until last night was when I actually got my Cool Kid invitation to go ahead and get the paid version. But the links, they're just placeholder links, so they are never accurate, at least in my experience, especially with the free version. So it'll say Edutopia article, but you'll see it'll have edutopia.com, and then it'll just say link for article on hybrid learning with just dashes. So it looks like a link, but it isn't really a link. So that's usually my process has always been to just go on to, if it's recommending Edutopia, go on to Edutopia, see if they actually do have an article on hybrid learning like I just did, and use that as sort of my starting point, especially if it's a site that I recognize that I know is reputable. I know teachers like to go to anyway and check out. So that's kind of how I start with that. It does tend to have a good barometer for recommending sites like that. And I think that's because of the knowledge cutoff that it has. Its knowledge base cuts off September of 2021. So that tends to be relatively good enough to go ahead and try.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone have any other questions while we're getting started?
I have a question.
Sure,
So
Kayla.
again, I get my response from ChatGPT, and obviously they're not live links. What did you say to do to look for those links, or did you?
So if it's giving you a recommendation for where to go, in the case that I did, it gave me Edutopia. I used that as the starting point. If it's not really giving you a place, but it's saying something along the lines of a video or an article, then I sort of use that as the prompt to start my searching. So if
Okay.
I needed an article on hybrid learning, I would have started articles on hybrid learning and used that as my search parameters to try and refine it. If you're thinking in terms of, do I want something that's a little more scholarly? Do I want something from my state Department of Education? Do I want an open educational resource? You can put those within your parameters as well, or use those to narrow your search to specific websites.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay. I am here if you need anything. I'm going to go ahead and work on another one myself.
Hey, Becky, I have a 12 o'clock I'm late for, so I'll see you
Oh, okay.
maybe next
Great.
week or the week after.
All
Thank
right,
you.
it was good seeing you, Tim.
Yep.
Hi, Becky's room.
Hi, Tim Hamill.
Okay. Everybody moving along? We doing okay?
Yep, had a couple questions, but we're getting going.
Okay, good.
Tim, we have a whole group from Brown County.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
they
you for
turned on their
joining.
camera. Look, there they
Yeah,
are.
Oh, look at them.
We were at the ESA conference, so we just, it was easier just to, we can get you the people's names or whatever, but we just registered under one and then just invited our group in from our ESC together.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We're really happy to have you with us today.
Glad to be here.
Chicken salad, excellent.
Hey Becky, I have a question.
Sure.
I just put the magic prompt in, and like you said, like the links don't work, so I can fill those in, but the one, it says complete a quiz, test your knowledge with a short quiz. And of course the link is dead. So do you have any recommendations? Like, I know you talked a little bit about, actually Tim talked a little bit about, like, the different kind of reflections, but if you want, like, this is a quiz on the 44 phonemes. So do you have any recommendations on ways to incorporate something like that?
Yeah, when it comes to what we have been doing in our system, I have found that the quizzes and just basic recall aren't always the best, especially for teachers, because it isn't quite as meaningful to them. They don't retain that long term. So they want something more reflective, something that makes them think about the ways that they're going to apply that into their classroom. So if it's recommending a quiz that's just going to be basic recollection and recall, like, that's something that you can always suggest that they use as a tool just for their own personal use, and maybe provide that as a resource later on. But to engage in an actual piece of evidence for them as a reflection, something that's going to help it to stick a little bit more for them. I would think, maybe look at that quiz and say, what's a way that you could remember this information beyond a quiz, or ask them to develop a quiz? Use it in that term, flip it a little bit so that they're not just checking a box saying, I know this information. How would they teach that information? How would they use that information differently? Because at the end of the day, you don't need to quiz them on it necessarily. You need to give them a tool to apply it in the classroom.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I think that's kind of
You're welcome.
the essence of it. It's like just to have a way to interact with the phonemes so that they can kind of get their like mind around the concepts. Which I
Yes.
actually think is a great way to do it. Not they're calling it a quiz, but I feel like, it's number 5 in a list of like do these different activities to kind of get yourself
Right.
acquainted with it. But then I wasn't sure just how to like, I was just trying to think of a way to do that, but maybe just like slides where they could go through them or something like that.
Yeah. And, I will say that there have been times where it's generated an activity suggestion for me that would definitely be more student facing than educator facing. And because we're using this for professional learning for educators and administrators, I have immediately discounted it because it would not work for adults. And that's the key with all of this. What is most appropriate for my audience? And in a case like this, a quiz, basic recall, yeah, they could do it, but it's just not the best selection for them. So I always opt for something else instead.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Hey, Becky,
Yes.
question from Brown County ESC. We're still, can you review again with the links? Like, it seems like when we're creating things, we just aren't having any luck with any of our links working for anything. And
Yep.
when we went to your session before, it seemed like and I've done it before, it seemed like it worked a little better. I don't know. Can you kind of reiterate like how to troubleshoot that, or thoughts or suggestions?
Yeah. So it really depends on whether you use the paid or the free version. I have always used the free version, and so I never get links that work ever. So I always have to find my own links. So I always use it as just that foundation, that framework. It generally gives me at least a starting point, a target of where to go. It will recommend sites like ISTE, Edutopia. There have been times where it's recommended the teaching channel for certain sites or for certain topics. I mean, but for me, it never gives me the exact link to the exact article. I always have to go and find my own. Sometimes it'll say, hey, check out this TED Talk. And then I'm like, oh, maybe there's a TED Talk that exists. And I find that, or it says, check out this video on YouTube. And so I start scouring YouTube to see if there really is something that exists. So it has an idea, but the free version doesn't really get you there. The paid version is something that is brand new to me as of last night. Tim has more experience with that. I think it at one point was giving real actual links to articles. But I am hearing more and more that people are saying that they're running into issues with that now.
Quick question, what is the paid version monthly and kind of how does that work? Just curious.
Yeah, so it's $20 a month. And actually, let me share my screen real
Is there
quick.
still a waiting list
But here's the
or?
thing, if you did it like.
Here. So this is the paid version. Can you see my screen okay, everyone? So with the paid version, you get ChatGPT 4. It looks very similar to ChatGPT, but then you also get this explore side where you have more features. So you can create your own GPT. You have different versions of the system that have been made by OpenAI. So there's Dolly, where you can actually go ahead and create images. That's how Tim was able to create all of those images of the magicians. He used that. There's one called the Negotiator, where you can start trying to, I guess it says, advocate for yourself and get better outcomes to become a great negotiator. Hot mods, I tried playing with it, but I don't know. It created an image of a car in the snow for me. Data analysis lets you visualize data. Of course, there's just classic ChatGPT. There's a web browser in here, so you can conduct some research. But again, this is all brand new to me as of last night, so I have not played around with much of any of this.
I'll jump in again, Becky, but is
Go ahead.
there a waiting list to,
There is a waiting list right now, yes.
and how long did you have to wait? Just curious.
2 months. 2 months.
To get the professional
Yeah,
version or the paid version?
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow, that's
2
good.
months for the paid version, yes. Yeah, I clicked the get, they call it ChatGPT Plus. I clicked the get ChatGPT Plus and it said, oh, you're on the waiting list. And I logged in last night and it finally was like, you've been invited. I was like, oh, hey, thanks. So, and I use it regularly. So it just took that. I guess there was a lot of demand for it. And so they were trying to limit how many people could go to the paid side.
Becky, that was the paid side though, and not like a sign up for the free plus, because I was able to upgrade and it was immediate. I did that about 2 weeks ago.
Wow, Isaac, what kind of power do you have that they let you do that? They must not like me enough.
I don't know.
only had to wait a day.
Yeah.
Guys,
And I've built a GPT and it's actually pretty cool.
I started building a GPT last night too, but why does it not like me? I say please and thank you to it all the time. Why
yeah,
doesn't it
that's the
like me?
problem. You have to talk mean and angry at it.
Man, that's what I'm doing wrong. I do. I say please and thank you to it all the time, and I'm very polite to it. Maybe I should be mean to the machines. Now it heard me say that, and it's gonna put me back on the wait list.
So Becky, what I did, I tried another prompt and then it gave me the shell with the dead links. And then I said, my next prompt, I said, give me a link to social studies graphic organizers for middle school. And then it generated like just some starting points, which are real resources. And it actually said, is it a boy or a girl? I don't know. He said, I apologize for the confusion, but as of my last training cutoff, I don't have the capability to generate actual URLs. And then gave some.
So it is possible that as they have been upgrading and doing things on the back end, that they've decided to stop that functionality. That's, the programmers are always in the back end doing things. So maybe that's something that's happened that I'm just not aware of. But I know there was a point in time when Tim was getting real live links. Again, because I was always using the paid version, I never got real live links. I will say for my own purposes, though, I kind of prefer the security of going out and getting my own links anyway. It makes me feel more secure in what I've created, knowing that I did take the time to find the source myself, vet it. If somebody would ever say, hey, you created this, why did you choose this link? I'm the one that ultimately decided what goes in there, and I have to say, here's why I picked this. And I always have a rationale for it. Even if it does give me a starting point, we always need a starting point. We always need something to spark an idea. So, it just depends on how you personally work and what shortcuts you like to take and how you like to get to your end result. If you like that it gives you a live link and that's the one you want to go with, that's totally fine. If you are more secure being the one that goes and gets it yourself, that's totally fine too. It just, I think, depends on how you personally work. We are at the 7-minute mark. How's everyone doing? I'm excited to see all these activities that everyone generates. We're going to have a whole collection of resources for everybody, which is really exciting. Hey, Tim, I'm glad you're back.
Hey, I'm glad I'm here.
We've been having some conversation about links in Chat GPT. And since you've used the paid version much, much longer than I have, and oh, by the way, we found out that I am just not a cool kid. Everyone else apparently got into the paid version, didn't get waitlisted for 2 months like I did. But have you noticed any changes in link access with the paid version? Have you noticed any changes in that at all?
In other words, you mean like
When it generates links for you?
Yeah, so I have seen more functional links show up.
Oh,
Some
more.
in the paid
Okay.
version, right? I have seen it ebbs and flows too, and I don't know what's going on in the background. I'm sure there's things that are coming and going all the time with the system being what it is, but I have definitely seen more actual links being produced. They're not always accurate. They still require a good eye to look at them and say, is this really what it's supposed to be? But I've had a few that have scored really, I mean, they score well. They do a good job of finding something that fits. But there's still a lot of, you still have to be very careful and still edit carefully.
Okay. Just seems like overwhelmingly people are saying that it's just not generating links at all that are
Yeah. And
usable, working. And so I was just curious because I never have experience with a real link. So
I almost wonder if they don't have some experimentation going on in the background with that. I would bet the house on the fact that they probably where sometimes it's doing a better job of it than others, where I think they're turning things on or off, because I have seen it do things better, and then it's like it forgets how to do something, and then you come back another time and it'll do it. It's finicky. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Becky, I'll add so it gave me like 4 options of websites. Like I was like just looking for fresh ideas, like where I could find something. And of those, like I just was kind of scrolling through. They were good options. I just had to go to that site and do the search myself, which is easy, just to give another kind of expansion on the idea. So it worked out just fine.
Yeah, what I found with mine is that I did 2 different prompts and I got 4 different resources. And I think they're all made up. Like I can't find any of them. So I'm finding lots of good things by searching for them. But of course, that's sending me down a rabbit hole. So it's good stuff, but it's not saving me time.
Well, I think when you look at the time saving, I think look at what generated prior to you needing to go and look for those links, and consider that's where the time savings is. So in other words, you have this activity that was sort of built in the background for you, and then now you've got to find resources. So yes, the resources part is time consuming, but if you had to do that part as well as come up with the framework for the activity and all of that, it's the amalgamation of time that, if you look at it that way, that's where the time savings really is. And to Amy's point, that's something I've found, that when it does give me, these fake resources, it at least points me in my thinking, like, okay, what kind of resources am I looking for? So now I know enough to go and, through my resources that I know and searching, I can find what I'm looking for. Someday we might find that those things work a little better. I think when things progress a little bit more, those resource generation components might get more accurate, but that remains to be seen.
Thanks,
Okay.
Tim.
All right, we're gonna head back to the main room now, so hang on.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Becky.
It's a lot of work on an
Okay. All right. Coming back. Welcome back. All right. So, oh, another room coming in here. We'll give it another second or two. Should have the theme from Welcome Back Cotter playing here. How many of you know that reference?
Go ahead, start singing. Start singing.
Uh,
Welcome back.
All right. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, here comes the last of them. This room must have been having a conversation before they left. Whose room was that just came in? All right. Well, hey, I'm excited to see that I think all but about 2 people came back. So excellent. That's always a good sign. All right. I hope you found the time useful. And I know I popped in and out of the rooms and I knew some conversations were happening in there as well. As some other really really good questions being thrown about. So why don't we do this? If I could go to each of our WIU folks, if you could just give me a quick, hey, how'd things go? You know, what kind of things were happening in your room? So Lauren, how about you start us off?
Yeah, sure, no problem. We had a group that was heads down and working. A couple questions came up just about if anyone knew any workarounds to trying to get ChatGPT to produce some links that weren't broken. We talked about that a little bit. One of our participants shared about how she would find the resources and then plug them in and ask ChatGPT to include them in the framework. So she was kind of working still finding the resources, but working from that angle to try to get ChatGPT to put it in that nice format for her. So lots of great stuff.
Excellent. Thanks, Lauren. Diane, how about your group?
Yes, hi everyone. So some good conversation in our group focused on how to kind of approach ChatGPT's initial response with an eye for how to narrow what was first created to get closer to what you're actually looking for. So for example, in Becky's model lesson, one of the steps I think was 30 or 45 minutes long. So one thing you could do if you liked one of those other steps was to ask ChatGPT, hey, create an activity based on step 4 that is 15 minutes in length, and then just continue to try to ask it to do things to get closer to what you wanted for your micro learning activity. And we had quite a few folks with a lot of experience with ChatGPT, some with premium level versions. So we heard some great insight on how to utilize it, leverage it to help it do more of the work for you, help it do more of the editing to get closer to what you want.
That's great advice. Yeah, ChatGPT is very obedient. Like it will listen to what you want it to do, and it will do its best to find a new way to do what you want it to do. And I found even the same thing is true for imagery. If you're using the paid version inside ChatGPT, it will keep generating an image that gets closer and closer to what you're looking for. So yeah, that's great advice to continue to push to get it to produce what you want to see. We're doing that. I can tell you very seldom does it come up with the perfect example right off the bat. Excellent. Well, thank you, Diane. And Becky, how about your group?
Our group also had a discussion about links not being generated and how we could work around that. And we talked really about the pros and cons of link generation and what it means to be the one that really is finding those resources online, and the control that you have being the person that's going out, finding the resource based on that framework that ChatGPT generates for you, being the one at the end of the day when somebody says, why did you suggest this specific resource over another one, and you being able to answer that question because you were the one finding the resource.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, resources are always going to be something that I think, even if ChatGPT gets better at producing real resources for us, even if it gets better at tapping into the current internet, we are still going to have to be the human involved who goes through and decides, is this really appropriate? I think for a very long time yet, I don't see that piece of the artificial intelligence being able to handle that process cleanly enough for us, especially those of us who are in positions of providing, professional learning and giving professionals, people who they're going to be very critical of what we put out there. And, we in our jobs have to be very critical of what we produce and how we produce it. So, even when it does get better at that job, we still have, the onus is still on us to be on top of it, make sure that we're reviewing, make sure that we're producing material of the highest quality. This should in no way diminish our quality of what we build. It should just make us a little more productive than we are currently. All right, excellent. So thank you all for taking some time with that. And I did tell you there was a special little surprise here. And so I'm pasting a link in the chat for everyone. And I'm going to share my screen and show you. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to ask if you're willing, if you wouldn't mind sharing the activity that you created. We'd love to see what you did, and we'd love to be able to share that with others if it's something you're willing to share. Lauren created a nice little document here for us, and it's just going to ask for your name, your email address, the topic that you produced in this activity, and then to share a link with us to that activity. So the document you just created, if you would share it with us, go ahead and click that link and share that in the document. For everybody who does that, we're going to enter you in a drawing, and we're going to give you a free year subscription to our platform. If you are the selected individual, we'll give you a year subscription to our Play platform with all of our professional learning in it. So if you'd like an opportunity to dive into that content and have access to it, we're going to offer that up to one lucky person who submits their activity.
I hope you get blue.
You have to submit an activity. Otherwise, I'm sorry, we can't have you a part of the drawing. All right. But hopefully you're willing to do that and share with us what you did. Before we move on, any comments? I mean, I know our folks did a good job of summing up what happened out there. Is there any other comments from the field before we move on here? Anything questions rattling around or experiences you just had that you'd wanted to share? I'll just open that up for a moment here. And that's a going. All right. So moving forward, I want to talk a little bit about how one of the other things we're doing with what we're building here. We're trying to avail resources in multiple ways. And so open education resources come into play for us, no pun intended, but our system bodes well for us in terms of these activities that we build. We want to share them out and make them available in some instances as free resources. And open education resources, the OER Commons platform is a perfect place to do that. Becky is she's our resident expert on OER, and I asked her to just give a quick idea of how we do what we do. So Becky, just like a 5-minute tour here of what we're doing with this.
Only 5 minutes? Wow. No. Okay. So I know that that many of you, oh, you stopped sharing. Do you want me to share?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, let me pull
I didn't
that
know
up
if you
real
were,
quick.
you were gonna go out and tour that, so.
I could pull that up. Let me go ahead and go to OER Commons. So I know that some of you that joined us today joined because you actually heard about the webinar through the Go Open National Network. Go Open National Network was kind enough to promote this webinar because we have a group on OER Commons for some of these resources that we've been creating. And if you go on to OER Commons, you'll see our professional learning and you group right here. And we have some of our free play activities. These are activities that we have created through the process that you've seen, ensuring that everything is openly licensed and available. And so we've got 17 resources right now in the group that are here. Different categories, trying to cover all categories for teachers so that we can make these as accessible as possible. But our whole intention is that we try to make sure that our professional learning activities are available to teachers in a wide variety of formats. So we know that sometimes we're going to have subscription-based activities for teachers, and those are going through their districts. We know that sometimes there are state and federal mandates that they have to have, but then we know that there are things that we just want to be freely available to everybody. And that's where our content resides on OER Commons. It also resides on our playlearngrow.info website. And so there's actually a feedback loop between our OER Commons group and our website. And so we wanted to just point out this connection to OER Commons because we absolutely love this website. We use it with our teachers. We promote it as often as possible. And so it just made natural sense for us to also have a group here. So when you get the slide deck, you will actually have a link to the group as well. You are more than welcome to join and have access to these here. You can again access them on the website as well. These are external. You can engage with these with teachers. External of Alludo. You can also, if you want and have a subscription, access them within Alludo and get credit for them. If you're in Pennsylvania, that's Act 48 credit. If you're in other states, you could get continuing professional education credit, whatever your state calls them. I know that every state calls them something different. But we just wanted to highlight the fact that we are trying to engage in some open educational practice, utilizing them in a variety of different ways here.
And it's a platform that, we're really just getting rolling with sharing these resources in here. And I think that one of the things that we're finding is it's very well suited for this type of activity that we're building. The way the platform accepts this content, the way it connects people to the content that we're building. Those of you who are in service agencies out there, I know there are many of you on the call who are from various education service agencies. This is a really great way to share out things that you build and create that you want to offer up as free resources. And I know that we don't all do, there are things we as service agencies have to focus on in terms of revenue generation and such, and that's important too. But we all have things that we create that we want to make available out there. And this is a great place to do that. So thank you for sharing that, Becky.
Sure.
So as we're getting to the final component here, we have two special guests that have hopped on here with us today, both of whom are superintendents in our area. And Becky, I'm going to take your screen back here. Okay. And okay, we're getting there. Hold on. Okay. Dr. Jason Boone and Dr. Chris Sefcek are in the group here today. And they're two of our superintendents in our part of the country here. And they've done both of them have had a focus on AI in their districts. And we invited them here as a way to kind of wrap things up today and give you some perspective from their end on some of the things that are happening in this AI world for them. So, gentlemen, I'll pass the mic to you, and I'll stop sharing here. And I'm not sure which one of you would like to jump in first, but the mic is yours.
Jason Boone, B comes before S in the alphabet, so I'll let Dr. Boone go first.
It's going to be hard to believe that we didn't rehearse this prior to, Mr. Hamill.
There you go.
But hi, welcome everybody. Good to see everybody. I'm happy to hop on and be with you here for a little bit today. The IU had asked Dr. Sefcek and I to kind of share a little bit of what we have going on. And I'll start. I did a presentation on this at the SAS conference in Hershey. So the way I kind of framed it was our journey with AI, and I kind of look at that at the countywide level too, because it's really started with a movement within our superintendents here in the county to learn more about it and what it can do in our schools. And we had a workshop session in June, if I'm not mistaken, right, Chris?
That is correct.
So we started out there just to see the tools that are available, and then kind of sit and talk about how we can apply them back home in our districts. So leaving that session, I really began work with our administrative staff here at Southmoreland. And we took a three-pronged approach. We looked at it as how can we use AI to help be more efficient as administrators? How can we use AI with our teachers in order to do the things they need to do with an instructional focus efficiently? One of the number one things they complain about all the time is not having time to do the things they need to do to differentiate at all. So we looked at it in that lens. And then our third prong was looking at how we can use it for our students, knowing that this isn't going away. I equate it with our teaching staff, like the dawn of calculators. And this is still an argument we have with my math department at the high school level here is calculators are not going away. We need to understand how to use them as a tool. And if we don't, we're sending our students outside of our walls here without the skill set they need in order to be the most successful once they leave us. So we looked at those three approaches, and administratively, a little history on it. We're a very small district here. We don't have very many administrators. We have 6, 1,800 students-ish. Don't have a curriculum coordinator. We don't have a lot of central office staff. And whenever I came here, we didn't really have any written curriculum as well. So knowing that there are things that need to happen, I looked at the tasks at hand and the people we had to do it, and we had to work really, really hard, really efficiently in order to get all this stuff done. So our first jump into it was a principal meetings where we kind of just opened ChatGPT, and anytime there was a problem or an issue, or we had a complaint session, we just pulled up ChatGPT and see if there were any solutions available. And the more we worked with it, the more we realized, hey, we're missing the boat here if we don't start using this at a higher level. So we started using it in curriculum development in terms of writing curriculum overviews, in terms of writing curriculum frameworks for our teachers to review. I'll tell you that in my experience, whenever we had to write curriculum in many districts that I've been in, as pleasurable as it was as a curriculum guy, it typically was a weeks-long to months-long process of arguing back and forth across the table over verbiage, right? A little thing here, a little thing there, that made a process that needed to be done months-long, weeks-long, even years-long process that was costly as well. So we ended up finding prompts and developing prompts to use for AI that enabled us to write 8-page curriculum frameworks with the Understanding by Design framework for close to 200 courses in less than 2 weeks for 6 of our administrative staff to handle. So we split it up based upon our content range. I did math. We had people doing ELA and so forth. And that was essentially our first draft. So whenever our teachers came back at the beginning of the year, we had all the curriculum frameworks ready. It fit perfectly for us because I had staff members in a survey prior to saying, I wish you guys would just tell us what you want us to teach. So it really made it easy for us to go ahead and get that done and set it on the table and say, okay, we did all the hard work here. Let's just hammer out and make sure everything is accurate, because there were some inaccuracies in terms of standards. There were a lot of mistakes in that regard, and we figured using the content experts in the room to fix that was the best way of handling it. So when we looked at the teacher lens, our focus for the year, whenever we set forth in July to the staff was 4 questions, right? We wanted to know what kind of engaging activities can I use to teach this content? We wanted to know what types of authentic assessments can I use in order to assess this content? And then I wanted to know, how can I create activities that are below grade level for this content for students with IEPs? And then the harder question, our staff, and maybe we're an anomaly, was how can I find activities to enrich students that are above grade level in our content area? Because we are lacking in the gifted education range here. So using those 4 questions, that was the task at hand all year long in all of our meetings with all of our teaching staff, is how can I use AI to answer those 4 questions? So if I'm a 4th grade math teacher and I am doing multiplication, and I want some hands-on activities for my kids that are real world engaging activities for students to do, I would type into ChatGPT, please give me, I am a 4th grade math teacher, please give me 10 engaging activities related to real world problems in order to help teach the concept of multiplying fractions for 4th graders. And what it would do, it would spit out 10 activities, maybe 2 of which were actually pretty dumb that I would never use. But I got 8 ideas within a matter of 15 seconds that I would have thought and argued and researched and spent a lot of time developing on my own if I didn't have AI to help me with that task. And then the next step was to work with the teaching staff to say, okay, how do I assess this using a rubric? So we use ChatGPT to create me a rubric on 25 points using let's see here, punctuation, grammar usage, in this content area that I can use to assess all 8 of these projects above. And it would give me a common rubric that a teacher could use to assess all of these different activities. Because their main question was, how can I do 8 different activities in my grade book and give them points if they're 8 different things? It's not fair to kids. But by grading them on a common rubric, it worked out perfectly. And then the hardest thing, they always argued that they didn't have time to create engaging activities for our kids who were above grade level. So our gifted learners were sitting in class learning the same content, but instead of doing 20 problems, doing 60 of them, even though they already knew them. So we really wanted to task them with using ChatGPT and any kind of AI resources to extend that learning. So I am an 8th grade math teacher teaching Algebra 1, and we are learning slope. Can you please give me 15 questions on slope-intercept form for students that are 3 grade levels above their peers? And it would spit out 3 problems. It would spit out those problems, and then it would spit out answer keys, and it would spit out explanations if I was unsure on how to do it. And it was pretty much all right there in a matter of seconds. So I figured that the easiest way to get our staff to buy into it is to see exactly how much time it could save them in the tasks that they spend a lot of time doing and say they didn't have enough time to do. And then as far as students went on our journey, is that's our last leg that we have yet to really jump into. We still have a lot of staff members thinking AI is pure plagiarism, thinking that it's a shortcut, and not thinking about the learning behind what you put into it in order to get the output that you want. So our next step is to really get students, specifically at the secondary level, to understand it's about what the prompt is you put into it. And as a teacher, I need to change the questions I ask. If I can just give my students questions that are answered by AI, I'm probably doing this wrong at this point. So I need to change the way I'm asking my questions and the kinds of projects I'm asking of my students so that they use AI responsibly in order to shape their final product. And really the way we're envisioning this is asking them to show the steps they used in AI to get to their final product. Because to me, it's a revision process along the way. So our learning process here at Southmoreland is to kind of get the students to learn responsible use of it, and the fact that it's more about the process and not necessarily just the answer. So, and Chris, I know you guys went completely different in terms of your staff development with AI and what you asked your staff to do. So I'll leave it to you.
Yeah. So first of all, kudos to the IU7 and for Jason on really jumping on this AI train months ago. Because when the conversations first came up at the superintendent's meeting, the superintendents wanted to look outside of our district and outside of our region to start this AI charge, when we felt that we had the ability to do it within, knowing that we could have further outreach by what we're doing. And it seems to be working, because we're growing out and out and out, not requiring someone else to lead that charge for us. I agree, Jason. The work that you've done is very similar and mirrors a lot of the stuff that we're doing. Our approach is a little bit different in the fact that we asked ChatGPT to create curricula for us that doesn't exist yet in areas that are just now being invented in what we think is the future. So, for example, we have a problem in our district finding substitute teachers, substitute custodians, substitute maintenance people. So knowing that you don't need a college degree for any of those areas, we asked ChatGPT to create a curriculum for us. And I'm just going to use our latest as an example, but use your imagination to find out what works for you, your district, or your place where you're working, or your business. We asked it to create a training program or a curricula that involves both theoretical and a practical approach to training a high school student to be a school custodian or a school district maintenance or grounds keeper. And it created this whole curricula for us. Then we used our department coordinators, our curriculum coordinators throughout our department, like the math department coordinator, English language arts, etc., to use that piece that Jason referred to as the human intellect, the prompts. I know Tim referred to that earlier in the meeting with you guys today, to really develop, look at what ChatGPT spit out for us, and then brainstorm with all personality types, all different perspectives, and hammer out a curricula that will prepare our kids into jobs as soon as they graduate high school. Next, we'll take on the task that Jason came up. They wrote 200 courses of curricula in 2 weeks. That's next for us. So we're writing curricula for things that don't exist yet. And in this curricula that we're designing, I know Jason once again mentioned understanding by design, but this curricula, it's laid out for standards, following Pennsylvania standards, national standards, communication standards, learning targets, big ideas, essential questions, enduring understandings. It has understanding by design, lesson plan templates for multiple tiers of student learning levels. And each individual unit is broken down by big idea and enduring understandings that overlap. They also are used to overlap with themes in all of our K through 12 content. So varying levels of math, English language arts, science. For example, in science, we use the national safety standards and hazmat coding. So they learn the scientific aspect of why certain chemicals can't be mixed together, and narrowed that down to what cleaning solutions we used, and did all that through ChatGPT. And then the human intellect to review everything. Our science teachers found what they could do with these, and along with our English language arts people. It's just what a magical process ChatGPT did to just organize it based on the prompts we gave it. So it took collaboration to even get these prompts written correctly, for it to give us output that matched what everybody wanted. So that piece worked well. And then we use programs like Night Cafe. Kudos to Tim and Lauren and Becky for the magician fixing the car engine, because we did something very similar with all of our curriculum documents. Now have Scandinavian Viking photos of people that don't exist using modern equipment. So the facilities and grounds training that our high school kids are going to go through have Vikings that are African-American, females, ones with disabilities, all that match what that curricula is about, whether it's grounds and facilities, school security, safety, customer service, secretarial. Like it's amazing what images generate to capture your attention, to then go into the details of what is expected of a person, what they're going to learn, how it can address every learner, so that it's going to be a complete student-centered learning experience. And I don't want to take up all day, because I could talk all day about this stuff, but I know Jason's got amazing things going on. We kind of parallel what Jason and them are doing, and going from there. But realistically, I'd like to give you some time to ask questions. I wish I could share my screen with you. It's probably a good thing you can't see me. I'm driving. You don't want to see my ugly face anyway. I can see all of you, but ask away. You have my full attention, even though you can't see me. But ask away. I'm here for you, and so is Jason.
Any questions for Jason or Chris?
Yeah, what was the tool that you mentioned, or the AI generator for the Viking different photos you said you made? What was it called?
Yeah, it's called Night Cafe.
Night Cafe.
Yeah, Night Cafe. And the thing about it is you have to earn credits. So you can either purchase credits or do what I do, which is log on every morning and get my 5 free credits. And it uses a varied number of credits to create images that you want. Like the ones I use took 1 credit. However, some of them, if you want a more detailed, can take up to 10 credits, because it'll give you like 5 different versions or 4 different versions of the same prompt. It just depends, but you get 5 free credits every day, and you can purchase more at your wish. But I've been saving them now for over a year, and I've got like 500 credits that I can play around with without ever worrying about running out of credits.
Right. Any other questions for either?
In using ChatGPT, I wonder if you were both using a paid version or a free version of ChatGPT.
I use
Free.
both. So I kind of sold out and said, if we're really going to dive in on this, I better know the full capability of it. So when we were exploring, it was the free version. And then once we really dove in, I got the paid version for $20 a month.
How much a month?
It's 20.
20 a month.
Yeah.
So if you're pretty adventurous, or you get to the level that you're comfortable, you can have ChatGPT basically teach you how to code to create your own AI tools, that you can have students start doing that for you.
Yeah, I think that, and I would echo that on our end. We've found the pay version giving us some extra capabilities worthy of that extra cost. And and as Jason said, you know, if you're going to get into this, get into it at the highest level you can. And if you can afford that $20 a month, even on an individual level, it makes a difference. Right. Yeah.
For sure.
Well, hey, we're a little over time, and I hate to hold folks up, because I want to be respectful of everybody's time here. But Chris and Jason, thank you both so much for sharing your perspective. You know, you're definitely, you know, some of the guys on the front line here, and you're making it work. And I think it's great for us to hear the practical application. You know, when you can hear somebody say, this is what we are doing. It's not like, well, we're hoping to do this. No, we're doing this. And there's some great stuff happening. As Chris was talking about all the curriculum building work he was doing, I kept adding up in my head what it would cost me to hire somebody to do all of that grunt work, to build that out, and still have to do the same thing, look at it with my staff and determine, is this what it needs to be? So the cost savings associated with what is going on, it's hard to quantify it, but it's there, and it's truly making a difference in what we can do with what we have. You know, I'll go back to what I started with earlier today. Here at the IU, we're a team of 4 curriculum supervisors and a director, and you know, we're limited. We only have so much time in a day, and we need to find ways to extend ourselves And I think that this world of AI is one of the things that's helping us get there. There's certainly potholes along the way. There are certainly issues along the way we're going to face, but you know, these are things we're going to work on. Those of us who are in the service agency area of things, I think it's one of our charges at this point is to keep on this and make sure we're supporting those we service and helping them to navigate this world too. So I want to wrap this up by thanking everyone. It is truly an honor when you get a chance to speak to folks from across the country and have a chance to share some things that you know and also learn from you. And we heard some great things today from you as well that you know, we'll definitely put into practice too. So thank you so much for joining us. We will be sending out a link to the recording and also the presentation. And let me share my screen real quick here. If you wanted to grab any of our contact information, there's our beautiful AI photos once again. Feel free to grab those and reach out. Well, we're more than happy to continue the conversation. We want to keep this ball rolling. I do see some more of these in our future. Hopefully some things that we begin to branch out and do some other work that's beneficial to us all. So again, thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we hope to see you again real soon. Take care.